Have you written a book and want to get it published? Then now's the time to call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099 and do it immediately. You see, they're looking for authors of all types of books. And unlike most publishers, Page Publishing will take the time to review most of the books submitted to them. And they'll even give you their feedback. And if they like what they read, Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, the Apple iTunes Store, and other outlets. They'll handle everything: copyright protection, printing, cover art, publicity, and editing. So if you've written a novel, a children's book, a cookbook, inspirational work, a book of poetry, or biography, and want to get it published, then you need to call Page Publishing and do it immediately. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. Your road to fame and fortune could very well start with this simple phone call. For your free author submission kit, call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099.
This is the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini. I hope you're having a good evening. This is the place where first-time authors share their stories and their process, what they went through to write a book, how they came up with an idea, the obstacles they faced, and how they kept on moving no matter what. On the line, we have Bob Dombrowski. He wrote 38 Years, a Detroit Firefighter Story. Pretty self-explanatory. Bob, you just retired about 4 years ago, right, from fighting fires in a city you say is even scarier than Camden, New Jersey. And I know that's a place where crime rates are consistently among the highest in the country.
I would think so, because usually we come in number one for everything bad: murders, arson, fires, and that. I would think so. I'm pretty sure we surpassed Camden, New Jersey.
Why would you want to be a firefighter in Detroit?
Well, I was born and raised in the city, and when I was younger, the city was great. Growing up in Detroit, we kind of we felt sorry for people in other cities like New York, Chicago, Los Angeles. That's how nice our city was. It was nice homes, tree-lined streets, and then when I got old enough to be on 21, I applied for the Detroit Fire Department, took the test, and I got on, and worked there for 38 years. Loved my job. Loved going to work. It was great.
What happened to Detroit?
It's kind of like the perfect storm, you know. And the auto companies started going down, or they moved out of the city. We had a big riot in 1967. White flight took off after that. Businesses moved out. Suddenly nobody went downtown anymore. One thing after another. It just crime started skyrocketing. Just one thing after another. Pretty soon there was vacant homes, and people started lighting them up on fire. And right now, I think they're somewhat turning it around. So I'm cautiously optimistic.
I mean, it's just got to be so sad to see that happening.
Yeah, it was, and it was just crazy being a fireman there, working as hard as we did. The fires we have, for example, if I could put this in perspective, how busy are we are one of the busiest fire departments in the world as far as fires. We have, I believe, pretty much the same amount of fires as New York City. And New York City is, 8 million people, Detroit 700,000. New York City has around 10,000 firemen. We have 700. And so that's how many more fires we have, and we have to put out. And it was an interesting run for 38 years. But it's the job, and you do it, and you go to work every day, and in the morning you're happy to go home if you made it in one piece, and then you come back the next day and do it again.
Were there any memorable moments in particular for you?
Times, if you're in a fire where you actually pull some child out, or help with the rescue of somebody, that's always memorable. Fires where your fellow firefighters get killed are sadly memorable. You'll never forget that. I remember when 911 happened in New York. I was at that moment. The fire department sent me to anti-terrorism weapons of mass destruction school. If you can imagine that, I'm sitting in there, and we found out that the World Trade Center just got hit, and we took off for New York, and I went to funerals in New York. I ended up doing that. So 343 firemen died there. But it's just tons of memorable
I mean, that's just so ironic that's the kind of school you were at.
Yeah, I've got a certificate in my basement. I show it to people, and they can't believe it. It's September 11th, yeah.
In light of all of this, you never said, what the heck am I doing this for?
Sometimes at nights, because it would be so hard at night, because you'd be up just about we'd work a 24-hour shift. You'd be up all night, going from fire to fire, and you're filthy dirty. In the winter you're so cold, or in the summer you're so hot, and our trucks would be breaking down, and a lot of those nights you'd say, God, I can't do this anymore. I just can't do this. And you go home and get some sleep and clean up, and you'd come back the next day and do it again.
Man, did you have kids and a wife and all that?
Yeah. I'm married, and I have 3 boys, and raised them, and that was always tough because I'd come. We work a 24-hour shift, so you work a day, you're off a day, work a day, that type of schedule. Work 2 out of 6 days, and I'd come home, and my wife would work. She always worked part-time as a X-ray tech, and she'd go to work. And when the kids were little, I used to have to watch them, and that would be tough. But then when they got older and they'd go off to school, where I could get a few hours sleep before they came home, and and I'd be on their day with them.
What do you want people to take away from this book?
Well, I think a couple of things. One is how hard we work. The Detroit Fire Department. We're a unique fire department. How we hang in there. And we love our city, and we hope our city comes back and becomes great. I can't say a great city, but if it comes back and becomes a functional city, a good city where people can live and have a good life there, that's what we hope, and that's what I put in my book. I put in about my city, about my job, about the how crazy it is, and a lot of funny stories, a lot of humor. I started off as a trialman when I first came on, and 38 years later I became I was the senior chief, somewhat the duty chief running the city, and so it's a whole yin yang of the whole fire department there. Plus being just being a public employee, dealing with the city, because right now we went bankrupt. We're the biggest city in America to go bankrupt, and I'm the first guy that ever wrote a book on Detroit, telling our story. And what really worried me is when it came out how they were going to react to it, but they reacted to it very positively. The guys called and liked it and thanked me, and so that's good, because it means a lot. When you're a firefighter, your friends, your firefighters you work with mean everything to you, and you don't want to screw them.
You know what, Bob? It doesn't sound like you screwed anybody. And let me point out, this is one of those books where, you could take it to the local schools and really promote yourself as a guy who gave back to his community and talk about, what it's like and really spark an interest in your book, So good luck with that, Bob. Next up, we have Joe McRoby. Instant Idiot, Just Add Alcohol. Good title, Joe.
Well, that's the title of me. Thank you.
Instant Idiot, Just Add Alcohol. That's the title of you?
I was a bad drunk. I was a pretty bad one. I mean, there's a lot of alcoholics, and we come from all different walks of life, but we are so much alike in so many ways. But I was a lot worse than just an alcoholic. I was evil. I don't know what happened to me. But I was a bad guy, and I don't know what happened, but I changed. I could never be what I was, and I can't today. I can't even understand how I was, who I was. I can't even understand how I could never do that again. And I just can't understand how I could have ever been like the way I was.
Did you know what you were doing? Were you aware of how you changed?
No, not really. I mean, I just, alcoholism comes on you gradually. It's a party. First, it's a party. When I found out what the morning drink would do for you, that became my favorite time to drink. So I started drinking every day since I woke up. I drank about 1.5 quarts of whiskey every day.
How did you function?
Pretty good for quite a while.
You were able to hold down a job and...
Oh, hell yeah. I would be in a bar at 7 o'clock in the morning waiting for them to open at 7, and I'd have a shot in a beer, but I didn't want too much beer on me, so I would change. The next one would be a shot with water, and I would drink about 6 or 7 shots, then get a taxi cab to the next town over, So I could just walk in the front door and make sure I'm there by 8 o'clock and walk out the back door and go across the street to the bar that don't even open till 1 o'clock, but the owner was in there reading the paper, getting his morning drinks. So he would let me in, and I'd have a couple in there whether I had money or not, and then go jump on a truck and go move furniture all day.
How did you know you were evil, that you became evil?
You know, like most alcoholics, alcohol, the addiction comes first. And I touch on that in the book, about if I have to walk over you to get what I got to get, if you don't understand, then you could not appreciate my dilemma, and therefore you were no great loss. I had to do what I had to do. See you later, bye. I stepped on a lot of beautiful people. I had a lot of girlfriends that really liked me. I always had girls. I had girls all over the country, and because I lived all over the country. But of course, I'm a good-looking guy, so and I never had a nickel in my pocket, but I always had a girl. I took advantage of everybody and anything. If you had a car, if you had a place of your own, then I'd invite myself. I was a mooch. I was, and I was a thief. And I didn't care about my, I was cold-hearted. You couldn't hurt my feelings because I didn't have any. People that I've been around, like I got picked up hitchhiking by Charlie Manson.
My God.
Yeah, I was in the same room in jail with little Nicky Scarfo, the guy that ran Philadelphia.
Philadelphia, I know little Nicky Scarfo well. He was killing people left and right in Philadelphia when I first started in radio. In the 80s.
He's brutal. He was a brutal guy, and his son just got put in prison. I'm from Jersey, I was married to the mob at 15 years old. I didn't know so many people. Uncle Paulie, Uncle Frank, Sonny that I used as the name for the book. That's my ex-brother-in-law. His name is Anthony. I married into that family,
What made you finally decide enough is enough?
I just got sick and tired of being sick and tired. And going to jail all the time. And being broke all the time, and walking in the alleyways, hunched over, and I just didn't have a life. I was just a piece of garbage, just looking for the next fix at any expense. It was a gradual awakening,
What do you want people to take away from this book?
Well, I think mostly that no matter how bad it gets, don't give up. Because if you live long enough, you're going to win. You're going to come out of it, and you're going to live a sober, productive life. At any age. I'm going to be 71 next month, and I'm still riding a big fat motorcycle. I put 200 miles on it Saturday, and I'm in pretty good shape for the shape I'm in.
I like that, because if you live long enough, it's going to work out.
The main thing of that book, I guess, that if you live long enough, because see, with addiction, it ain't over till it's over, and you could quit, and you could have the best intentions, and we all do, and then 7 months later, you could be in this, back at the liquor store, and lost another job, another wife, another DUI, another bad thing. But I just would like people to see that, I was the worst, and you could see in that book that I'm one of the worst. And God bless me, I'm walking on cloud 9 right now. I'm not on cloud 9, but I'm on top of the world. I got a beautiful apartment, I don't deserve it. I got a motorcycle, I got a truck. I don't deserve none of this. I should be in prison or dead.
Well, Joe, you're not dead. And you know what? You're proof it's never too late to get sober. Joe tells me that he gave a copy of his book to the pastor of his church, and the pastor ended up using it as a topic for one of his sermons. So next thing he knew, people in his church were interested, and he's getting a lot of interest, and he had some people buy a couple of books, and he's getting it out there, and he's got one heck of a good message. Okay, the music tells me it is time to take a break. You are listening to the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini. We'll be right back.
Have you written a book and want to get it published? Then now's the time to call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099 and do it immediately. You see, they're looking for authors of all types of books. And unlike most publishers, Page Publishing will take the time to review most of the books submitted to them. And they'll even give you their feedback. And if they like what they read, Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, the Apple iTunes Store, and other outlets. They'll handle everything: copyright protection, printing, cover art, publicity, and editing. So if you've written a novel, a children's book, a cookbook, inspirational work, a book of poetry, or biography, and want to get it published, then you need to call Page Publishing and do it immediately. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. Your road to fame and fortune could very well start with this simple phone call. For your free author submission kit, call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099.
Welcome back to the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini. All right, next up we have Rowdy Love, who's taken on a pretty ambitious project. It's called Seventh Seal. Give us the rundown, Rowdy.
It's about the apocalypse, the Four Horsemen, and the end of times. The first book of one of five, and it is 122,000 words. The first book is, which they should all be about the same size. So when it's done, it's going to be like 600,000 words. It's a really good book too. Everybody is.
That's a lot of words.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be when it's all done, it's going to be pretty big.
Well, you know, a lot of the people have written about this. What makes your book unique?
Because I took a different aspect on it, because the Bible states that the seventh seal is the silence, the end of times, and I took silence and made it a being. And so when silence is released, it's like hell on earth.
Okay, so explain what you do to the seventh seal.
Basically, I've took all the four horsemen, each one of them, I've put writing 4 books in one and bringing the 5th book, joining them all together. But each horseman recruits his own army to fight the silence at the end. So it's a battle all the way through, pretty much. It's a action sci-fi with a little bit of biblical to it. All my characters are original, and I'm just sick of all the, vampires and zombies and all that, and I just want to put a new twist out there of something somebody might be able to get into and look at it different.
This sounds like something you've been working on for a while.
Yeah, I've got a total of 4 years in the planning and research, but I've got 2 years in writing and setting up the stages of all the books.
Did something happen to make you want to do this?
Basically, I've always been good at writing, from school and stuff like that, and I've got plenty of ideas, and this is just the beginning. I've got 8 more books I'm going to write that have nothing to do with this. I just waited a little later in life and then started it.
So you just needed more, you needed that time to give to the project.
Yeah, it is definitely time consuming. It takes up quite a bit.
So what did you do in real life?
I am a union carpenter. I worked 100 feet in the air on swing stages and stuff like that.
Oh, that's not scary.
Well, I got 10 years in on that, so I'm kind of used to all that now.
So how did you get going with Page, and how did that all happen?
I looked around for a while, and I tried to find the best publisher that suits my needs, and I just kept coming back to Page.
How are you promoting your book?
Mostly, I got Facebook and stuff like that, and basically anybody wants to hear me, I tell them about it. And plus, they're promoting it too. Page Publishing is. So.
All right, so you're not, taking the books into church or anything like that?
No, that's definitely not the book for that. But the thing is, I also got a job, and I got to stay busy with that too because I love my job,
Oh, okay.
So I don't have time to go on book tours or anything like that. At least not at this point in my life.
Well, has anybody read your stuff? Are you getting feedback?
Yeah, I'm getting great feedback. Everybody that's read it so far is ready for the second one to come out because, it's one of 5. But like I said, I'm writing them 4 of them together. So I got chapter 1, part 1, then it goes to chapter 2, or chapter 1, part 2, chapter 1, part 3, and stuff like that. And that's why I'm combining the books that way.
All right, Rowdy, keep up the good work. Finally tonight, author Jan Rosenstein joins us. She's a licensed clinical social worker, and she also does work with the Division of Youth and Family Services in New Jersey. She wrote It Happened to Me, and as soon as we got her on the line, she told us that she has some very exciting news to share.
The big news is that I received a phone call regarding my book, It Happened to Me, which is a book about based on the life of one of the clients I work with, a young girl who was sexually abused by her babysitter. And she wanted to tell her story, and I was motivated primarily because she wanted a voice, and she didn't want to feel like something happened to her that she would be defined by that the rest of her life. So I ended up writing this book, and in the biography, at the beginning, or in the book where my picture is, I listed that I'm a court-appointed special advocate. I volunteered years ago for the court system and was sworn in Camden County to basically be eyes and ears for foster care children and report back to the judge who was making decisions for these children. And I wrote that in the book, and apparently CASA found out about it. And I didn't know this, but Dr. Phil is a court-appointed special advocate spokesperson. And we wanted to get on his show, and we want to promote that we need more volunteers for CASA. We're in, I think, 19 counties in New Jersey. They're in Manhattan. They're all over. They're in, I believe, one in every county. But there's not enough volunteers to represent each child, and we want every child in foster care to have somebody who advocates for them, just to make sure that the foster care homes are safe, and we're not re-victimizing these children by taking them away from their parents and putting them in houses that are not, what they need to be. And CASAs do this work. And to become a CASA, you just have to look it up, your local CASA, and it's, I believe, a 30-hour training. You have to be 21 years old. And they do a criminal background check. I think that's the only thing that you really need to substantiate, becoming sworn in. And then you're sworn in and you're given cases, and in your volunteer time, you go to the foster care homes and ask the children if they're happy. And you find out a lot about their lives, and then you report that back to the judge. Years ago, I think it was back in the 70s, one of the superior judges felt that he did not have enough eyes and ears in the lives of these children that he was making decisions for. So he came up with this idea of rounding together a group of volunteers that would, in their spare time, go into the homes of his foster care cases and write a brief synopsis of what the best decision should be. Should they be returned to their families, or should they go for adoption? And are the foster care homes providing them with the services they need, like mental health counseling, which many of these children need, which is where I come in, because my practice does, I have those cases in every county. I have New Jersey, and I represent the courts. They send me the cases through the Division of Child Protection and Permanency. The program was designed by this judge and then was picked up, and it just exploded. And the problem is we just don't have the information out to the public. And that's why in my book, It Happened to Me, I write about the dilemma that this child goes through. And she became one of the cases for the Division of Child Protection and Permanency, who stepped in. So to give her a voice is to give all the children a voice who are abused and neglected, sexually, emotionally, physically, and to get them the help they need, and for them to know that doesn't define whether their lives are going to be happy or sad.
So what's your news?
The news is that CASA is going to be promoting my book, and we're going to do book signings to get the word out that we need volunteers. So I'm going to be traveling around with CASA to the different counties and promoting the book, and really more importantly, the need for volunteers. So we're excited to join forces because my book is something private that I did, but CASA found out about it, and they're interested in promoting it further through the resources that they have, so that we could get more volunteers to help these children.
That's so wonderful, Jan. That was worth writing the book right there.
It really was.
Tell me what this book is about, basically, in a nutshell.
So It Happened to Me is about a little girl named Journey. And interestingly enough, the client's name was Journey, that one of the clients that I work with that was sexually abused, who was 4 years old. And I love the name Journey because I think you're on a journey when you are abused, and you need to find your voice. And I think you need to not feel ashamed, but feel empowered by the resources that are available to you. Some of the people that are abused in their childhood turn out to be the most successful, wonderful people, and it's part of their journey. So the name Journey is the name of the character. The illustrator happens to be my daughter, Gabrielle Rosenstein, who is a scholarship recipient at the School Art Institute of Chicago, and who has won multiple awards for her drawings. So I was able to have her draw the characters in the book, and she believed in not having any ethnicity to the characters, because it could happen to anybody. And that's what we wanted, and that was part of the book. So she is molested by a young babysitter, and she's afraid to tell her parents because he threatens to hurt her family. And the book takes you through the lie, the pain, and the worry she had until she's able to admit to her father what happened, and then she gets help. And throughout the book, my daughter drew a butterfly because we wanted there to be a symbol of metamorphosis and of hope. And so it's not a sad book. It doesn't focus on the details of the actual sexual abuse, but more about sharing with someone else your story and not letting it define who you are. And I think the book accomplishes that.
Okay, Jan, we are just about out of time, but before we go, let me remind you, there is a great need for court-appointed special advocates. That's CASA. And you can find out how to volunteer for a program in your area. Just go online, Google CASA, and then you can look for a CASA near you. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Thanks most of all to our authors who are with me every night, and they're such an inspiration to anyone listening. If you're sitting there with an idea or a story or an experience that you're just dying to share and just can't figure out how to do it, the Page Publishing Book Club is proof. There are people just like you out there. They found a way to do it, and so can you. I mean, just think. You could be the next guest on the Page Publishing Book Club. Think about that, huh? I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini. Come back next week, same time, same place, 710 WOR. Have a great weekend.
Have you written a book and want to get it published? Then now's the time to call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099 and do it immediately. You see, they're looking for authors of all types of books. And unlike most publishers, Page Publishing will take the time to review most of the books submitted to them. And they'll even give you their feedback. And if they like what they read, Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, the Apple iTunes Store, and other outlets. They'll handle everything. Copyright protection, production, printing, cover art, publicity, and editing. So if you've written a novel, a children's book, a cookbook, inspirational work, a book of poetry, or biography, and want to get it published, then you need to call Page Publishing and do it immediately. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. Your road to fame and fortune could very well start with this simple phone call. For your free author submission kit, call Page Publishing at 800-204-6099.